I just drown out people talking steadily, just awkwardly knowing that they can't just take an estate away if they think you're basically at a hospital for just 4 or 5 days and didn't take medication back in 2014 or 15. Hence why I have the photo of me showing me that I wasn't physically harmed by anyone and was cleared, so they can't go back and say, hey, we're going to throw you in after your parents pass. And then he had all those surgeries done and probably had COVID at that. They can't throw somebody away who had glaucoma surgery in both eyes and went to said place because they would have had gotten tipped off then. And then they said it was fine playing video games if that was something that you do on your spare time, so I figured they couldn't go back. And then you had set form for that form wasn't disability, said it was SSI, the person that worked for 3 years, entitled to it if you live in the United States. I went through everything and they can't go back and say that you have like a sort of like what they was given to you when it was given to you by the state, and the state wouldn't have done that if they had known that if there was something wrong with your eyes they wouldn't have given to you. So I think the server's down on Gran Turismo, the new one, so I figured if something's wrong with the PlayStation Network's thing, and then I can still play the old game. Crying is in tears, and then they said that steadily just talk shit when I was playing that fighting game. Didn't realize that people that I had were just trustworthy, that they're just like felons with construction worker people that basically have no right to say that stuff to a person who willingly sold a house to them, that if the roof wasn't bad then we wouldn't have sold it to them and would have kept it. But the roof on hail damage and stuff, that when it rained it hailed and it basically got repaired at one point in time, hence why the room looked different. I don't know why these people think they're like the mafia, they can take your house away, and they can't really do that if you have the funds from the glaucoma thing and being surgery in your both eyes. It's fucked up that they're gonna try to have a courtroom case over someone who's disabled, and they make a mockery out of saying they can just lock them up. They can't just do that. I know I said all my business on here, but they didn't act like they didn't believe it, and they're psycho. I can get them on stuff that they had, that I had recorded, that they did wrong, saying that they made a false police report saying under someone else's name it belonged to someone else, but it wasn't the case, when I had receipts and that puts my life in danger doing that. Then you can print off all the receipts from GameStop anyway under your account under the last name Ortega, and it shows that everything wasn't stolen, that it was brand by new back then, 2015. And I just did this just for a hobby. I didn't expect if I got somewhere someone would try to report you or be an asshole towards a person's family because they got somewhere with it, but figured I have yearbooks and stuff, but I don't like to show that shit off because I just showed off the photograph that I had back 2004 indicating that high school years, and I had all the manuscripts and everything still from the high school itself. When I to another state in 2005, 2006, they had to get another immunization set done because in Kansas is a different state, so when you move to a different state or state there, then in 2006 moved back because I didn't feel comfortable going to that said place, having surgery and that. Under all that, it was real, but I just figured. And nobody made fun of that Chaz Bowick guy from the Marvel movie, The Avengers, for having the same thing done to him, and he had died. So I figured having that, I was a staying decanter and that, but didn't have it, but had others, like inherited stuff that I tried to exercise, and that at my own basically risk of knowing that you can inherit all sorts of diabetes and all sorts of different things that I had no control over. I had either got my finger had gotten nicked, and I don't know by an insect bite or what, but if I hadn't stayed at that place for 2 years, you would have been fine, and I wouldn't have had any ailments that caused an illness. I know COVID is real, but I didn't have COVID, but it was similar to the symptoms of developing diabetes afterwards. The hospital saved me, and I don't understand why. Under the suspicion of them thinking that, but I was basically was real in that, because finger wouldn't be different colors, and I understand why they saved me if they were going to turn around and say 1 minute that they were blessed to be a patient with them, and then turn around and say something else via someone that knew a case manager that I had, basically knowing them, and I don't know what possibly making them seem I wouldn't have gone to said surgery for my eyes at the University of Health if I had known, because my vision my one eye is bad, like you can't physically see out of one eye, so I figured, I'm not making it up, but I figured once you develop diabetes after the fact that you had that from a poisoned drink or being bit by a tick or whatever, then I figured, I don't know how I got that illness. It was strange that I had developed it after 2 years being in an apartment, and we moved back because the roof got repaired, but I can't physically take you to court over something that you have a physically developed illness that happened and recovering from, and thrown up in something. If you're sick, then all of them will get sick. So I figured they can't throw you up in something if that's the case. That I had physically had an ailment that I don't know why I got like that from either drinking a drink at Zona Rosa when I filmed with Evan out there with that. I didn't film us going to the coffee shop and then making sort of remarks at me and Evan there, saying that I was too stupid to draw that, and he had my first, middle, and last name, and mentioned all sorts of things that Evan was a witness to, and they put something inside a drink that Evan's cousin drank, and she didn't believe me, thinking that I just copied their story, but my finger turned orange and my hand turned orange, so I figured it was real. Then you're in the process of being signed, but if you have an illness, they'll probably turn you away, saying that you have this and you can't go physically meet them. But you can talk to them via the Skype or whatever. And I had a conversation with someone and figured it was pointless if they turn around and basically have sort of like a relationship with someone who made a mockery of the last name without realizing at the time and day I didn't Wikipedia that set thing and had played it back and then, but didn't have the device like linked to this thing, so I didn't physically want to play that again after 2014 or 15 passed. My email basically went void because Evan told me that it was pointless to play the video games because he got a platinum and didn't get a written official statement from the developers after he platinum set game. And he went to college, and then after that, I don't know why I have him on here if he didn't really take anything seriously, that him himself that had stuff that he could have been something but gave it away to his nephew in 2014, and all that's written on this Twitter page. I kept my stuff, but the stuff when I removed from the U-Haul from the apartment back to the house, it was dusty in the U-Haul and stuff. Basically it was like you couldn't vacuum out that stuff, and the stuff became very, like, it got overheated. I had said surgeries, the doctor's gonna have to vouch for me for having that surgery in the first place and having it done in both eyes, and then be developing that diabetes shit after. I had drank a Zona Rosa drink from Evan that bought it for me. They made rude remarks and stuff, and I almost didn't drink it and stir it away, but since he bought it for me, I didn't actually think they did something to him, but did something to the drink because his cousin had got a different drink and something had occurred where they put a plastic glove in it. They mimic COVID, but I know COVID's a thing, but I hadn't gotten the illness. I would have been fine at a place where if we hadn't moved, offset argument off something that he thought it was somebody else's stuff when it had my last name Ortega and receipts and things. And when you have an account for GameStop, and if you have an account there, you can show it on your phone and show that it isn't stolen goods. I know you can buy used stuff and return stuff, but I didn't have any issue with the device being like something that you would take it back if something was wrong with it, even though I experienced glitches and stuff with games. And I didn't glitch this game, but figured it was something that I had all the proof in that from set 2015 onwards, and if I hadn't made this account, then I wouldn't have posted it on there. If it was basically set thing, like, it would make sense. It would have somebody else's debit card information, and it had my debit card information. I didn't really I had a video log back then of posting stuff from Best Buy of Resident Evil 7 that I didn't understand at the time, but luckily, Evan took me to Best Buy and we both bought a game from their new. And hospital can't do anything. I hear people talking in the background stuff. They can't prosecute you. If Universal Health said you could play video games, I recorded that there, and I had people there with me that had said eye surgery that listened to what they were saying. They said you could play video games. It wouldn't interfere with having glaucoma and that surgery. I don't know why they have that evil gamer shit if they're in a like hostile environment with people that don't like them. Neither they don't get tossed up in something after their parents die. If I hadn't done this, I wouldn't have really learned the basics of learning how to drive and turning and maneuver the car. I'm not making any of this up, but figured reverse drive and then parallel park off basically stuff that you learned to do back then. You can steer with the controller. There's menu options, but they can't prosecute you if you had surgeries back then that could have prevented you from being able to walk or whatever, or basically being rude with you, telling you a bunch of gay shit. But it wasn't really, it was inherited, so I figured. But I don't think they made fun of that Chad Boseman guy that had cancer in his rectum or whatever. That's what they checked me for, so I was a dumbass to get that shit done back when I was 15, knowing that damn well they were gonna make fun of you back after if they try to prosecute you for something that SSI isn't disability, but if you work for said 3 years at a place writing grants during said high school years, and it was real because there was actual photographs and it was basically televised, and they said themselves at Rock Hill Road that I couldn't be prosecuted because of that. I mean, they had the video live streaming someone that represented that company saying that. The server's down for Gran Turismo 7, and I don't understand why they had so much advertisement for it if Sony basically didn't pull this down and made the other server up, because at one point in time Facebook had all the videos up, and when Sony's server went down they took all the videos off and nobody commented or said anything via YouTube. I had said that via Facebook. they can't do it like where they make some of the statement saying that you're gonna get sued by someone if they made fun of you and you had basically a knowledge that with photos evidence of it forwarded by a cousin who at that time had my back. But if they all make rude remarks and are shallow towards the person because either they think all sorts of negative stuff off, I didn't even want to be at the gathering because I figured they would have done that anyways. Goes by some other, doesn't go by no way of knowing that Devin basically told me to delete my email back then when I had my original PS3 account and I have it on my friends list. And he had got a platinum off that infamous game, so I figured I was there with him and played it, but figured I don't understand if he didn't have that account since the beginning of time, why he gave it to his nephew and his nephew gave it to someone else, or they sold it, or they don't have it anymore. So I don't understand why he went ahead and did that. So it wasn't something that the Vita attached. That's why I went by Brave Fencer Vita and I changed it to the Mothman, because I had made the gif of that thing and basically have that story, but figured I looked like the image, but figured it was more of a curse and a blessing, because what he wrote down, it said who is that supposed to be, and it looked like my image, and then I don't understand why. That's all on Facebook, and he had his Facebook account attached like I did of the PlayStation accounts, and had video evidence and everything else. They wouldn't have they would have said something else when Sony themselves wouldn't have took the time. I wouldn't have live streamed it back then when it originally came out. It took a year to play the game to get that far in it. I always come in third place back then because the car was tuned enough to be able to go there and play enough times to understand the track in that, and that was the hardest track at that point in time. That German, basically, somewhere track. I know I looked that up because the developer wrote to me, and then I started looking up stuff about all that stuff. I was gonna give this to my sister because she had got her driver's license and she understands it. If car spinned out, that was impressive stuff back then because you didn't have physical cars like spinning out, like going over the track, and like how they make in the intro is basically something that it's rare to get a car to spin out. Nobody really watches my live streams anymore because I had basically played the Shenmue 3 games and live streamed it because I thought I couldn't get the character NPC to come out of the woodwork after a certain amount of time playing it. It wouldn't appear. And finally, I don't know, out of luck, like how the Johnny character off Final Fantasy VII, off the one where they get kidnapped Cloud's wife's friend from, and then couldn't get the character to come out of the woodwork either because it would glitch, it wouldn't be there. So I had basically stalled playing it back then, and the stuff was odd that it occurs if the device came in first place. I know if you an Aldi coupe car, but it was a different brand, that it wasn't bought from the dealership, but it was basically either pre-installed when you buy it, or when you play it, you unlock it via the trial daily thing. So I didn't really buy anything from this, and I didn't put any money for only in the Street Fighter game. But the only character you can buy is Akuma. That off the store back then, you had to buy like a season pass for all the other characters, and that Gil character glitched because I thought it was with the set DLC, but it wasn't, so. You look up the trophy where it says you can get a car basically that you have in inventory system, that I had most of the stuff unlocked. Hello? Huh? Pie, the Canadian bacon with the... Yeah. This basically the wings, I guess. The bacon and pepperoni. There's 3 toppings: the bacon, the Canadian bacon, the pepperoni, and onions. I don't want sausage. Yeah. This wings. Just give me the wings. Just give me the wings. Okay. The buffalo hot. Alright. They can't put someone away if they had 10 surgeries, and the doctors would have gotten no way of knowing that they would then have had said surgeries if that was the case. This is stolen if you look like the moniker from that back then. It said device. And that's why I said the Brave Fencer Vita is 7th place right now. And I had that Vita, so why would they think it's somebody else? And you had to set device. It shows what place you're in and how to go past. make a mockery, they don't understand something that if I was basically someone who didn't work, I wouldn't be as thin, but figured I still basically do stuff during the day, and it wasn't something that basically being seeing impaired doesn't mean you're a lazy bum, and I don't figure why they make a mockery of a person who had it. It had actual documentations even back then still, but I'm not going to show that off on here because it really will be rude with you and tell you a bunch of shit because I had the actual paperwork from back then. All I did was buy his PlayStation to learn how to drive, so I figured you have being a vision impaired off one thing that occurs where it's stupid for them to make a mockery out of a person who had that done. Barely am playing it, so I figured. I can't say it's psychobabble when you hear something that, like, off somebody else saying something and it isn't the person who they perceive to be the person with that when I don't have a soundboard, but I basically hear stuff. I know everybody hears things, but it's weird that you hear your own train of thought, but when somebody else hears the same stuff that you hear on a daily basis, then I think that's fucked up. The apartment wasn't as bad because you didn't really hear anything during the day, but figured if someone knows off something that you post via the basically the sports clips and then you post it outside of that via I didn't post outside, but thank God, or something probably would have been weird. And we moved back because they figured the roof had gotten covered through insurance, so everything was set under that. So I live streamed originally back when I originally had this in set place, so it wasn't anything that was something that they can't really go back for and say something that off the attachment. No, it's first place. It was off the Brave Fencer Musashi game that they couldn't have nothing past like 10 letters or something, so I figured I couldn't fit all that on there. I understand why they have the able gamers or something where that if they're living with physical disabilities or something that they can play video games. I figured if you got like a basically people that make fun of you saying that all sorts of stuff, and it's just off basically off like not being able to see impaired. You hear shit, but you still can't see as good, but you hear a bunch of shit. But figured. You hear all sorts of stuff, but figured. I think they patched it when they had car detachment thing actually had scars and stuff from the vehicle, so that back before when they gave the initial DLC back in 2017 or 18, it took a whole year to get that level 25 playing the arcade thing, and basically took after that like 3 years to get them to write to me saying that people that had gotten a high score via the game or whatever could play initially for the esports. Yeah, I'm not making any of this shit up. It wasn't used off somebody else, and it just basically had statement that if you look Latino and went by basically looking like Mexican or Indian, you would go by that set name because Brave Fencer was that character that was a samurai, and Vita because it had a Vita attached to it. I had a jury summons film back then in 2019 that I keep getting that summons to go that they can't if someone's off their background. Car was all wrecked. Back then they didn't have the patch where it makes it to where you don't get dents or scrapes or anything. Mid-motion blur. That's like having glaucoma. It's blurry. Looking outside the. That thing at Disney World, they have something similar like the. I know you can use the motion controls for that. Or was the main switch the controls?